Hi, we are starting section 3-4, which is probably one of my favorite things in Algebra 1 and Algebra 2. We are going to learn the quadratic formula. So make sure that you copy this down. And in class, I'm going to have you learn a song. It goes to the tune Pop Goes the Weasel. So I'm going to sing it for you, and hopefully you will practice it because I will make everybody sing it in class. Here we go. X equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, pause the video, try it on your own, and we will sing it in class. Okay, so let's move forward. We are going to do monitoring progress 1 and 2. I am in your textbook on page 120 in section 3-4 if you want to follow along. 122. Okay, so first it has to be in standard form. This one is in standard form, and let's write out what is A, which is 1, what is B, which is -6, and what is C, which is 4. And I always want you to write out the formula, just because the more that you write it, the easier it will be to memorize it. So remember, we're trying to find x, which is the roots, or the solutions, or the zeros. Okay, x equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So now we're going to plug it in. X equals the opposite of b, which is +6, plus or minus the square root of, that's a 6, of b squared minus 4 times 1 times 4 all over 2 times 1. So now we're going to simplify it. Square root of, this is going to be 36 minus 16 all over 2. So x equals 6 plus or minus the square root of 20 all over 2. Moving over here, square root of 20, I'll simplify it here so you can see, is 4 and 5. Bring out the 4, which becomes a 2, rad 5. So now x equals 6 plus or minus 2, rad 5, all over 2. Now the last part of this is where kids get tripped up, and I'm going to call it triangular simplification. So those are my real numbers. That's my square root, so we can't simplify that. So we're going to reduce just the real numbers, divide everything by 2, so it's going to be 3 plus or minus the square root of 5. Okay, make sure you pause it and copy it. Let's move on to number 2. I'm going to clear my screen. Okay. This is not in standard form, so the first thing we're going to do is put it in standard form. Add 7x to both sides. There we go. So let's put our a, b, and c here. A, b, and c. A is 2, b is 7, c is 4. And let me change my pen, it's a little thick. Here we go. X equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now we're just going to plug it in. Opposite of 7 plus or minus the square root of 7 squared minus 4 times 2 times 4 all over 2 times 2. Now we're going to simplify it. So you want to make sure you show all of your steps because it's very easy to make a mistake. All right, so 8 times 4 is 32. all over 4. X equals -7 plus or minus. Okay, you subtract that, becomes 17 all over 4. And 17, I cannot simplify that. Let's see if I can do triangular reduction. There's no whole number here, so I cannot. And this is your final answer. Let's continue with solving equations that have imaginary solutions. So I'm on page 123. We're going to do number 4. This is not in standard form, so let's move it to be in standard form. Plus 8x plus 41. And make sure you write out your a, b, and c, which is 1, 8, and 41. So x equals opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Here we go. X equals -8 plus or minus the square root of, positive 8 squared minus 4 times 1 times 41 all over 2 times 1. X equals -8 plus or minus the square root of 64 minus 164 all over 2. X equals -8 plus or minus the square root of -100. Oh, there's going to be an imaginary solution there. X equals -8 plus or minus, simplify that, becomes 10i all over 2. And the last part of this is to check to see if I have triangular reduction, which I do, because all my real parts here can be reduced by 2. And the answer is going to be -4 plus or minus 5i. There's my imaginary roots. So go ahead and pause this. Try number 5 and 6 on your own, and we'll go over it in class.